channel, and as you can probably see already, we officially have a ceiling in the van, and I am so stoked. The past couple of months have been super busy for me, as it is every single fall, I feel like, but I finally was able to get caught up on all of my edits and finally have a few days to fully spend working on the van. And the first project was the ceiling, because as you guys probably remember, earlier in the year, we removed the original headliner that was there, and we pretty much were just rocking the bare metal roof. And I mean, that worked for a little bit, I guess, but it was super echoey, it was super loud when we drove, and it just didn't look great. We've been wanting to do this for such a long time, and I honestly don't really know what was holding us back, besides the fact that I was just nervous, and we were 100% just overthinking it. So the other day, we finally just made the decision to just jump right into it, and I could not be more stoked with how it turned out. So in this video, I'm gonna do my best to kind of show you guys a step-by-step process we took to install the paneling, the sound paneling, the insulation, and the actual cedar paneling. And I'm gonna tell you guys how much that all cost us. Neither Andrew and I really have a lot of experience with building or construction. Andrew definitely has been doing a lot more than me recently. I mean, he's pretty much made everything you can see in the van so far. But truthfully, we don't really know what we're doing, and we are 100% learning as we go. So I just wanted to put this out there for anybody that might be scared to do something like this or think that it's too difficult, because it actually ended up being easier than we thought. And if we can do this in a couple of days, you can too. And in terms of the supplies that we used, I linked everything that we used in the description, minus like the tools that we either had or borrowed from my grandpa. So I guess let's just get right into it. And the first step that I didn't really document that well was putting up the framing. So we used like 1x2 just furring strips basically, and put them along all of the metal supports of the van and kind of just framed out something so that we could drill into wood instead of drilling into metal when we install the panels. So yeah, that was a pretty easy first step, and then we pretty much just waited for our sound panels to get here. So I'm just gonna cut to that footage. All right, so day 2 of the ceiling installation, and yesterday we got up all of the studs, really only 3 of them, but it's basically just the little furring strips that we're gonna attach our paneling to. And this is the sound deadening. The sound deadening came way before everything else. We're waiting on the insulation, and we are going to go with 3M Thinsulate. But we didn't know if we were going to do sound deadening or not. A lot of people say it doesn't do anything, but it was only $30 for this package of sound panels, and they're not the Kill Mat ones, but I don't know if those are necessary. I'll link these in the description. They're just a knockoff brand from Amazon. And yeah, we're just going to put them up. We're going to put 2 on each side. A lot of people cover their entire van with it, but that is totally overkill. And yeah, like I said, I don't even know if it's going to work. We'll see if this does anything. I'll report back afterwards. But yeah, I guess let's do it. Mission complete, and that took us maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Pretty simple, and I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make, but I guess let's see. I guess we should have done it before and after, but it sounded a lot like it was not as echoey, and it doesn't, like, I don't know, carry as much. So I don't know, fingers crossed it did something, but if not, it was only 20 bucks. So yeah, that's it for now, and hopefully the insulation shows up soon. Alright you guys, it is day 3 of the ceiling install, and it's crazy it's taken this long, but the insulation took forever to get here, but finally it's here. And as you can see, we actually went with 3M Thinsulate. We figured it would just be the easiest to cut, the easiest to put up. We've heard good things about it. It's non-toxic, it resists moisture, doesn't attract bugs. So yeah, I'm not going to get too much into detail of why we used it. This is a 10-foot by 60-inch piece, and we're just going to do the ceiling for right now. And this was $100, so pretty inexpensive. And we're going to use the 3M90 adhesive, and I'll leave a link to all of this stuff in the description. So yeah, I guess the first step really is to just measure out these panels up here, cut this thing up, and start putting it up. One thing I'll mention is we are doing this in the middle of winter, and it's like 35 degrees today, so we have this little electric heater going in here because we know that you're not supposed to use adhesive in the cold, but it's either do this now or deal with no insulation all winter. So we figure after we put up the paneling, even if it doesn't stick perfectly, we can always redo it. So don't roast us in the comments. We know you're not supposed to use adhesive in the cold, but we don't really have a choice. We want to get out and use the van in the winter. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so we got the first piece cut, and now we're just going to see if it fits before we cut all of the rest of them like that. All right, first panel's going in. Let's see how we did. All right, not bad. First one was a success. Good job. High five. All right, you guys, we got all of our pieces cut out officially. We measured everything, and we even put a couple up here just to test them, and they seem to be pretty good. They're holding without even the adhesive. So we had this little heater on, and it's like 71 degrees. We have a temperature gun for our pizza oven, and we checked it, and it's like 70 degrees. It's like 35 degrees outside. So we are at the step where we just have to put the adhesive on. So we're using this 3M 90 high strength contact adhesive. And yeah, I guess the next step is just to spray it on, and I guess the next step is to just do it. All right, putting my hair up so we don't get adhesive all in my hair. Okay, so we basically, let me turn this heater off. So we basically stuffed it in the back, so it's sitting there, and we're going to spray the adhesive and then tack it up, so we're not like fighting with it while there's adhesive everywhere. And are we going to spray this also? Mm-hmm. Okay. Do we need to open a window or anything? I think we're okay.
A good idea is to have some sort of ventilation.
All right, you guys, it's now the next morning, and we finished all of the insulation, and it went a lot smoother than I thought. The adhesive stuck no problem, even in the cold. The heater did its job, I think. And yeah, we are stoked. So now we are moving on to the wood paneling, which is going to make the biggest difference, in my opinion, aesthetically at least. So we ended up going with cedar tongue and groove paneling. And the reason we did that is for multiple reasons. Cedar is moisture resistant, as well as it also just smells amazing, and it's relatively cheap. There's a bunch of other cheaper options, but we ended up going with the pine for a multitude of reasons, but mainly because it smells amazing and we want it to have that cabin vibe. So while we were doing the insulation, we've been running back and forth, and we actually have been staining not staining, but putting a clear coat of just polyurethane to basically finish and protect it, all the panels. And yeah, I am super stoked. It's finally, the last coat is dry, so this morning we're going to actually start putting things up, which is a huge step. We've been super nervous, and I've been putting it off because I wanted to do things perfectly, but I realized that if we wait to do things perfectly, it's never going to get done. So I would much rather just do it. We kind of just jumped right into it the past couple days. We were like, you know what, let's just order the insulation and do the ceiling. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen? We're going to waste a little bit of money on paneling. Total, I think the paneling cost like $120 for 4 packs, and that should be more than enough for this roof, and we're going to end up doing the sides and stuff as well. So the way I see it is, even if we screw it up or do something wrong, the most we're going to lose is like $120 on the panels. We can take them down, we can buy new ones and put them back up. So the insulation is done, and yeah, I guess we just have to move on to actually starting to put things up, so let's do it. All right, so here is the paneling. It's like 3/4 of an inch thick, so it should be pretty easy to work with. It seems to be flimsy, and it should not adhere, but it should work with all of the curves in the van. So picked out our first piece, and we got the miter saw over here to start cutting it up. Massive shout out to my grandpa for letting us borrow his miter saw. This is not necessary, but it's going to make cutting these panels a lot easier. So shout out to the real OG followers that know my grandpa from the SUV build, because he's taught us pretty much everything we know. Andrew's even got my grandpa's safety goggles on, and here goes the first cut. You ready?
Ready.
Let's do it. So it's been like an hour or two. Update. It's looking pretty dang good. You can't really see it. The only issue is that one of the pieces cracked right here, so we're gonna have to super glue that. But so far so good. We got pretty much the fan cut out, which I feel like was the hardest part, and now we're just gonna continue on with these longer ones. But so far so good. Alright you guys, it's been a few hours and we got a lot more of the ceiling done. We have a little bit to finish that we're going to finish yesterday, but we got most of the hard part done, and the tongue and groove definitely takes a little bit of finicking to get perfect and to make sure that you got it all in perfectly. And we're pretty exhausted after today. If we wouldn't have had to cut, measure, I would definitely say you could do this all in one day, but we kind of were taking our time on it. And yeah, so tomorrow we will finish all of that. All right, you guys, it is the next morning and we're finishing up the last couple panels. I think we have like 4 boards that we have to put up. We have to make a few cuts, but so far I am loving the way this looks. It smelled like a cabin when we walked in here this morning after sitting all night. And yeah, so we're just gonna hurry up and get this done. Andrew just got it all, the last board up, and here's the last screw. All right, the ceiling is done. Oh, I want to lay back, but there's tools all behind me. That's a huge relief. Stoked! It actually is starting to look like a little bit of a home now. Oh man. Alright you guys, the ceiling is officially finished, and the last step was putting the cap on the fan. We've been wanting to do that for so long. We actually had to trim it down a little bit because the way that the manufacturer gives it to you, there was way too much extra plastic, so we had to trim it down to make it fit. But now that that's done, the ceiling is officially finished, and I could not be more stoked on how it turned out. And honestly, I'm super proud of both Andrew and I for just jumping into it and just doing it. If I've learned anything from this little build process so far, it's that jump right into things, even if you don't think you're ready, because that's honestly the best way to learn. And like I said before, it ended up being much easier than expected. I truly think that we could have done this in 1 or 2 days if we weren't waiting for supplies like in between everything, because the hardest part was cutting and measuring, and that was just tedious. And maybe working with the tongue and groove was a little bit tedious, but it wasn't hard by any means. It was just a little time consuming. So now that it's all said and done, I bet you guys are wondering how much it actually cost us. And we could have went with cheaper options. We didn't necessarily go the expensive route, and we didn't go the cheap route either. So in total, this entire project cost us just shy of $300. I think it was like 290 something. I'll put the total on the screen. And like I said, I have everything linked in the description in terms of the materials that we used. We did buy a bunch of extra planking because we are going to be putting it on the sides, and we wanted to potentially just have extras. So we probably bought a little bit more than we needed to in terms of that. But other than that, I think we did pretty dang good. And $300, less than $300 is not too bad for this whole ceiling. It totally changes the vibe of the entire van. The van literally smells like a cabin now. Every time you open it, it is amazing, and it's finally starting to feel like a little cabin on wheels. We also could have went cheaper by not going with cedar, but like I mentioned, we really wanted that cabin vibe and that cabin smell, so I do not regret going with the cedar. It's also way quieter in here. We've driven a couple times since we've installed everything, and there's no echoes, and it just sounds so much quieter. I don't know if it's the insulation, the actual sound deadening, or just the combination of all three, I think really made a difference. So super stoked on that. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this project. And in terms of future projects, the next project we're thinking is doing some upper cabinets on both sides right back here, just to give us a little bit more storage. And we also finally caved and bought a diesel heater, and I could not be more stoked to actually be comfortable on more long-term trips in the winter. We're actually driving to New Hampshire in the beginning of January to shoot my friend Tori's wedding, and I could not be more stoked for that. So the plan is, up until then, is to go as hard as we can on the van and do as many projects as we can and get it a little bit more prepared for more long-term trips. And then once we get back from New Hampshire, the plan is to finally head west. I know I've been saying and teasing this for literally a year since we bought the van, but life has just been crazy, and the next couple months of next year look completely wide open, and we should have pretty much 3 to 4 months of complete freedom on the road. Fingers crossed. So yeah, stay tuned for more van projects coming in the next couple weeks. Probably some more winter adventures before we start making our way west towards warmer weather. But yeah, all right, I'm done talking now. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully it was helpful to at least some of you guys. And yeah, thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.